Alright, yo, what is up guys, MrPantaloons here with Opera Omnia, and in today's video we are gonna be taking a look at the summons in Opera Omnia. We're gonna be talking a little bit about the summons in general. We're gonna see what kind of tips and tricks we can find about them. So we're gonna talk a little bit about those. We're gonna talk about each summon, like what they're good for, which one is a better choice and what not. And then we're also going to be talking about how to farm some of them, especially Chocobo and Sylph. Right now, World of Illusions, we got Ifrit, Shiva and Ramu available, so we can farm those. And then we also have this one right here, which apparently should be able to farm Chocobo and Sylph quite efficiently on that one. So yeah, this is what we're gonna talk about. So let's start it off with the summons. So let's go ahead and open the enhancement screen. Okay, here we go. So these are all the summons that are available in the game right now. So there are 10 in total. We have been able so far to get everyone to max level except for Brothers and Pandemonium here. These two, you can only get them up to level 5 by farming the Affinity Atomites in chapter 8 and the these ones right here, the Funnel Atomite in chapter 9, which apparently don't drop that easily because I only have them at level 2 and level 4. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about the summons. So starting off with, I guess we can start with Pandemonium. Now Pandemonium, we're not going to be able to use Pandemonium that much right now since we can only get Pandemonium to level 5, so we're going to have to wait until we can get them to level 20. But if we take a quick look, we can see that the blessings, you got raise HP, brave damage and chain attacks. So that's gonna be quite useful. And you also have the wind damage, which will pretty much replace Sylph, since Sylph was the only one with a wind damage there. So we can use Pandemonium instead in the future. And you also get increased knockback, so that's gonna tie into the blessing as well. So Pandemonium is gonna be a really good option in the future. Right now, not so much, especially at level 2. And then you have pretty much everything else similar to the other stuff. So that's going to be an interesting option going forward. Now, Brothers are another interesting summon. I think this one is also going to be pretty nice once we get them to level 20. Right now, again, not so much at level 4 or 5. But the blessing, you get the raise bravery by 5% when HP is at least 80% of max HP, so you get more bravery. So if you have too much damage, if you cap your bravery too much, then Brothers will help you out to deal more HP damage. You'll be able to store more bravery and thus deal more HP damage. So they're gonna be a really good option for that. Then we got Alexander. Now Alexander, he's kind of an interesting one. He's not that useful in my opinion. Now he is good obviously if you have the Holy Weakness, so you can take him whenever you have Holy Weakness. And then the blessing can be nice in some instances, but for the most part you can probably just take a character that can heal your party instead. So this blessing for the most part is not gonna do that much for you, and especially since it's 15% HP over 3 turns, so it's not that much HP. It can maybe save you sometimes, but it's gonna be pretty rare. So that's Alexander. Then Leviathan is pretty interesting. You get 60% of your initial bravery for 12 turns when your HP falls below 50%. So this blessing can actually help you, but at the same time you do take 12 turns to get all that bravery, so it's gonna be a while, and you need to drop below 50%. So you have some specific requirements in here, and it's kind of slow. You're not gonna get that damage immediately, right? So you have to bear that in mind. But it can be useful here and there, and obviously the water weakness. If you have the water weakness, you may want to take Leviathan. Then Odin is another interesting one. Mainly for Cecil, I suppose, because he deals damage to himself and he easily can get this blessing. But to be fair, anything else other than Cecil, you just take Ifrit, you get 20% instantly at max HP. And well, I've actually tried playing with Odin. We had a very specific case where I even had Ashe in the party, and Ashe, once she drops below 50%, she also gives her allies, I believe it is initial bravery and max bravery. So I double dipped with both Ashe and Odin. We had a booster machine. I had him, I baited the booster machine basically to hit my party and bring everyone below 50% and get this 30% blessing, plus Ashe's passive triggered as well. But the problem is, since you take all that amount of damage, you're gonna lose a lot of score. So in the end, you're better off just taking Ifrit, and the 10% extra damage that you get from Odin is not really gonna do that much. You can just take the 20% and you'll be good enough. You'll be good to go. And then I guess you do have the attack here, and it might be decent here and there, but if you have an element weakness, then obviously you'd rather take someone with an element. I guess if you have all the element resistant, then you can go with Odin and get a little bit more damage. Ramuh, I really don't like Ramuh. You do have the thunder weakness if you need that one, so that's nice. But the blessing is just, it doesn't really do much defense, 40% when HP is less than 50%. But the thing is that 40% defense, your defense doesn't really scale all that well. It's pretty much linear. So if you're taking like I don't know, I don't even know how to say this. Basically, this will mitigate very little damage. It's not that good, unfortunately. I guess it's there at least, because you want to take him for the thunder weakness, and maybe that 40% defense might help you a little bit, but probably not. Probably not. Now Ifrit, he is my #1 choice, and this is why. So you got the fire element there. Obviously, if you need fire, Ifrit is gonna be the one to go for. And if you take Ifrit as your summon and you take an MLB Squall as your friend, and you happen to have the element advantage as well, summoning Ifrit while you swapped in, or while you're swapping in your MLB Squall, you will deal tons of damage. That's pretty much the highest amount of damage you can deal right now in the game, probably. MLB Squall with the fire element weakness during summon, he just deals tons and tons of damage, so it is very, very effective, and you get the 20% attack on top of that as well. So you can only imagine that he will hit very hard indeed. So there's not much to really say here, just that you need to be at max HP, so you have to be kind of careful, especially if you don't have a healer in your party. That's kind of annoying sometimes, because you have to try and cut corners and really pay attention not to get hit, so that not to lose your attack buff. But he is my #1 choice, because that 20% attack will really help you get as much damage as you can per turn, which means you'll finish the level faster, which means less turns, more score, more milestones completed, right? So Ifrit will really help you finish missions, especially if your team is not that strong. If your team is full MLB, you might get away with someone like, say, Shiva. Now Shiva, you get the ice element there, so that's gonna be nice if you need that element, but you also get speed 20% when bravery is below initial bravery. The problem with this one, however, you would rather want more damage per turn, not normal damage and more turns, because that's obviously not good, right? Because you want to finish the level in as few turns as possible. But if you have a full MLB team, you probably don't care as much about having more damage, since you already have that damage, right? So you might just get away with Shiva. You get a few extra turns, but you still do a lot of damage and you do the job faster, and it's probably safer as well if you're in trouble of getting KO'd and stuff. But for the most part, I still prefer Ifrit. With lower level teams, definitely really good, and probably even with a full MLB team, you still get the 20% attack. Why not? Why not? I'll take tons of damage over more turns any day. So that is my opinion. Ifrit number 1 right now. And then I believe brothers are gonna be really interesting with that bravery, because it will allow you, again, if you cap your bravery a lot, this one will allow you to get more HP damage in, so that will also help you out to cut your turns down, so it will help you with the missions. And then we have Sylph and Chocobo, which are obviously really good for co-ops with one wave, because lately we've had co-ops with 2 waves, right? We had Garnet, that's a 2-wave co-op, and then Oran as well, that was a 2-wave co-op. So in the Oran we had to take Ifrit, in Garnet it's either Leviathan or Ramu, since there are 2 waves. But we do have the Trial of the Nemesis co-op, that's 1 wave, so you are recommended to take Sylph or Chocobo, because you can finish that battle pretty fast. Now, in terms of who would be better, Sylph or Chocobo, in my opinion, Chocobo for the most part wins, unless you need this wind element. The wind element can pretty much make the difference. If you need the wind element, hands down, Sylph will be better. And then Sylph has also some interesting uses with the lower debuff odds, so you might actually get some benefit off of that as well. Me personally, I just like going for the damage which Chocobo provides. Now there is a catch between the two, and let me see. Okay, so here's the catch between Chocobo and Sylph. Who should you use? Hey Perplex, what's up? How's it going? So let's go for the Trial of the Nemesis. So in the Trial of the Nemesis, we have 1 wave, this one right here. We got 1 wave and 2 targets, Kuja and Sephiroth, right? So who should you take? Who would be better? Taking into consideration that yourself and Chocobo are the same level, which they are for me right here, so they're both level 18, which one would be better for me in this instance? Should I take Sylph or should I take Chocobo? And in my opinion is I should take Chocobo, and this is why. Now the main thing is the summon ability right here that grants your party 1.1 attack. The party HP actually saved me on a specific co-op where I needed that extra HP, but for the most part this blessing is not gonna really do anything for you unless there's like an HP requirement. We had a fight where you needed at least 5000 HP, and I was going in with lightning. I believe I had to put some HP passives on her, and she was still at like 4800, so I needed that 200 to take her over 5k, so that actually helped me save my lightning. But anyway, again, this attack 1.1 is what will make the difference in damage. But the catch is the following. So Sylph, when you summon, you heal your party and you gain bravery, and it doesn't actually hit your enemies. And that's a good thing, because if you have 2 or 3, and you use Chocobo, he's gonna hit your enemies and you might break them. And if you break, it doesn't matter how many you break. You can break one target, you can break two targets, you can break three targets. You're still gonna get the break bonus one time. So that means if you break two or three targets, you're gonna lose that extra bonus, right? So Sylph would actually deal more damage despite having the attack 1.1. So that leads us to the following conclusions. In battles with one or two enemies, you probably want Chocobo, and I think once the difficulty gets higher and higher, it will be also harder to break with the meager 1300, 1400, 1500 bravery that Chocobo deals. So I don't think that should be a problem for the most part. So if you summon with Chocobo and you break 0 targets, or you break one target, you will deal more damage than with Sylph. Again, unless Sylph has the advantage with the wind, which we don't have in this one because we have Sephiroth, he's weak to fire, and Kuja is weak to ice and water, so there is not an advantage here for Sylph. So Chocobo, in my opinion, wins this one. And Sylph could actually be really good when you have 3 targets, because having 3 targets, then that makes it easier for Chocobo to break 2 or 3 of them, and then that will lose you some damage. So that is pretty much it. You can sort of manipulate your targets and have your Chocobo not break more than 1 targets, and in this one it works. It pretty much never breaks the both of them, at least for me, but this one is really easy as well, so you probably don't need to worry that much about it. Now we're gonna see what kind of tips and tricks you can find about the summons, and finally we're gonna also be talking about where to farm Sylph and Chocobo, right? My Sylph and Chocobo, they're still not level 20. It's pretty hard to farm them, so it would be a good idea to see where we can farm them efficiently, right? So I got some helpful tips from Reddit here. We got a few links. I'm gonna put them in the description below the video, and we're gonna be trying to go real quick through them, and you guys can read them afterwards should you be interested. So first off, we got tips on summon charging, which could be pretty interesting. Perplex, would it be a good investment to pop a treasure book for low level Sylph and Chocobo users for quick leveling? Yes, it would probably be worth it to pop a book to get your summon to level 11 real quick, but I think you may not even need that, because I don't think it takes that many resources to get your Sylph and Chocobo to level 11, and anything past that is not gonna help you that much. It's gonna be nice to have it higher than level 11, but if you have level 11, you are good to go. Okay, so what do we have here? Points needed depending on summon speed. So this is tips on summon charging. So for fast, you need 32, slide fast 48, normal 64, moderately slow 80 points. And then you have the breakdown here, following apply to both ally and enemy actions. So for a brave on HP attack, you get 1 point, skills grant 1 point, whatever they do, like buffs, debuffs, and so on. Breaks grant 2 points, so 3 points with the attack and the skill. Multiple breaks grant 2 points each. All hits during a chase grants 3 points each, and the final hit on the wall also grants an additional 3 points. And then this one here apparently is not confirmed. Any attack or skill that misses or deals 0 HP damage grants no points. You get some points when you summon, which is interesting, so maybe from the initial damage that your summon does will charge your other summons. I'm not sure. You get some points when you summon. Interesting. And then you don't get points during the summon, which is also kind of an interesting one. So especially for co-op, right? Because when you summon the other characters, they will not charge their summon if they don't have it already charged, which makes it so that for the most part it is best to either have triple Chocobo and Sylph, since they have the same speed, so they will charge at the same time. And if there are 2 waves or multiple waves, you can use a bigger summon that charges slower, and you can use 3 of them in co-op as well, and they will all charge at the same time. I don't think it's worth it for the most part. There are some exceptions where you can take, like, say 2 big summons and a small one, or I don't know, 2 small ones and a big one. But it's kind of tricky, because the small ones, they will charge real quick, Chocobo and Sylph, but then when you go to summon, the big one won't charge. So after the summon is over, you will still have to essentially waste more turns to charge that big summon. So might as well go triple Chocobo / Sylph, or triple big summon like Ifrit, Shiva, and so on. Alright, next up we got some what is this, like a public or what's it called? Public announcement? PSA, public service announcement, I don't know. Please don't cancel a chase. Okay, so this one is pretty old, from 4 months ago. Apparently in the Tidus co-op, people were canceling the chase when they knew that the enemy is dead. So it is best to not cancel the chase, so that you build up your summon gauge faster. So even if it saves you time to cancel the chase, you should not do it, because you need to charge up the summon gauge. So that was pretty easy there. Then we got another interesting one here: when to use summon for max turns gained. So this one, okay. So someone was interested to know the answer to this question, and then we have a pretty good answer here. So if we read real quick, someone skips all enemies' turns until you get X constructive turns. After that, it's dependent on whose turn comes after your last characters in summon phase. So if you have ABC, then the enemy, ABC, enemy, ABC, enemy, ABC are your characters, E is the enemy. In the first case, using 6 turns summon on A's first turn will result in ABC, then E here gets cut out, but then you get ABC again, so that's 6 turns, and the boss essentially remains in place right here. So he will still get his turn after the summon is over. So on the second case, this one is going to be better. So you have the summon on B's first turn, so you get B, C, then the enemy gets cut out, you got ABC again, the enemy gets cut out, then you got A, and then you got the normal order again with B and C, and then E. So you gain 2 extra turns here essentially, whereas here you would not gain anything. And then it says the following: if you use quick action during the summon, in this case your quick action can push enemy's second turn out of summon period, thus enemy's turn will appear right after the summon period end, because it isn't skipped. So since he was cut here, if you gain 2 turns with your team members, he will be pushed right here and just go right after the summon end. Then we have the third case that says the following: using 6 turns summon on C's first turn will result in, so you have AB, then you have C, boom, you pop your summon. Then you would have had E, he gets cut out, you get 2 more turns, 3 turns, 4 turns there with C, enemy gets cut out, and 2 more turns, that's 6 turns, and then you get C and E. So it says you get the same number of constructive turns as the second example, but enemy's turn can be hardly pushed out of the summon period via quick action. So here you have a little bit more wiggle room. You have to get 3 more actions, have the enemy be right in front, whereas here 2 actions will bring him in front. So the conclusion here is, if your aim is to extend your turns as much as possible, you summon on your last character in the queue. So now we have the math, we have the power, we have the knowledge. There we go. And then there's some tips for co-op. So what about co-op? Because in co-op we know we have triple summons, and in co-op it's for the most part the best to try and chain your summons. Like number one will summon, then when the summon is over, hopefully 2 or 3 can get their summon instantly, and then whoever is left can get their summon instantly as well. That is the best case scenario. Obviously that's not always gonna happen, but you can try to at least. So this one says, using quick turn rate abilities during a summon can be extremely beneficial. So this one is basically about turn manipulation, right? You can try and manipulate the turns so that you can chain summon one after another without having to waste any turns. I'm not gonna read through this, but you guys can read through yourself. I'm gonna be linking the post in the description below. Alright, so that is it for the tips and tricks section. Now let's talk about where to farm Chocobo and Sylph. Oh boy, here we go. Okay, so we did the tips and tricks. Where to level Chocobo and Sylph. So we have this one right here, Carbuncle Treasures with increased drop rate for Chocobo and Sylph materials, which is interesting. We haven't had this one before, so I really like that they brought this in, but it's kind of a bit late since we're getting co-ops with 2 ways, but still have to get the level 20, so might as well. So completing the missions for Carbuncle Treasures will award you with 650 gems, which is pretty nice. And then if you do the part 3, you will be able to get quite a few materials for Chocobo and Sylph. Now I recommend this one right here, Orb Spring part 3. So with this one you would usually get 2 to 4 Chocobo or Sylph materials. Sometimes you don't get any though, which is kind of annoying. I hope that you would be guaranteed to get something, but sometimes you get 4, so that kind of averages out, I guess. So this one is probably the best place to farm for Chocobo and Sylph materials at the moment. You can obviously do the Crystal Spring part 3 as well, but usually the crystals are not worth farming here. It's better to farm the orbs, and you get much more value by doing this one. So this one is the best place to farm, but this one will only last for 10 more days, right? So it has 10 days left. So once this one is over, the second best option is gonna be to go into pretty much any of these 3 trials here. So say you go to Ifrit and you want to be doing the same thing again, so get Orb Spring part 3 again. So on this one you're also gonna be getting some pretty nice drops for Chocobo and Sylph. And then outside of World of Illusions, because this one it requires SP, right? So you can only do it so much. So once you're done with your SP, where can you still farm Chocobo and Sylph? And probably the next best option would be the chapters themselves, because you have a lot of rewards that give you many materials for Chocobo and Sylph. And there is actually a link that I'm gonna put in the description as well. So there's a spreadsheet someone made with basically all the rewards for chapter 7, 8 and 9 as well. So you can look through the spreadsheet and find what you need. There's like rewards with 50 Adamites, 50 Gale Cores, so you can farm a lot of those. Okay, and obviously you can only complete the missions once. So as you can see, I have completed everything, so I still need more materials. So where do we farm some more of these materials? Now you gotta go and farm some specific missions. Now for chapter 9, I haven't actually seen any really good mission. Unfortunately, I didn't have any luck with farming Chocobo and Sylph material, so I don't know if there's any good place to farm in chapter 9, but we have in chapter 8, 7 and 6 right here we got a few spots where we can farm some Chocobo and Sylph materials. Hey Vodka, what's up? How's it going? We were actually referencing you, or referencing one of your posts that you made like some months ago. Alright, so chapter 9, I don't know if there's a good spot in that one. For chapter 8, however, there are a couple of spots. The first one, or one that I've had some luck with, is Recollection of the Past Part 1. So I've been somewhat lucky on that one, but there's also 8-8, which I kind of like doing here and then, and it's especially good for gil and XP. Then you also can get Chocobo and Sylph material, so it's this one right here, right above the story node, 8-8. So I sometimes try and farm this one, and you can see a reward here with 50 atomites, but that's again only one time. So I try to farm this node here and there. You can get some materials. You have chapter 7. Now for chapter 7 you have either 7-3 or 7-7. So 7-3 and 7-7, you can farm Chocobo and Sylph in those. You also have 7-12, where you can gain some additional gil and XP. Then there are also a few other places such as Path to Success Part 1, Lael's Part 1. These are all hard modes, by the way. And then there are also Path to Success Part 2 and Hidden Passage Part 2, albeit those are a little bit harder, but I believe you may gain a little bit more gil and XP, so you can try and see, maybe you get lucky with those one. And finally, for chapter 6, Domina Wastelands, we have 6-6 and 6-18 for, I believe this one is only Chocobo, right? I think you can only farm Chocobo in this one. Let me see, we can actually check it out. So I guess this one wouldn't be too good, but if you haven't progressed towards the later chapters, I guess you could try and farm for Chocobo at least. So 6-6 and 6-18 for Chocobo materials, and there's also 6-16 and 6-7 for gil and XP. Let's see, confirm. Yeah, this is available from chapter 6. So in chapter 6 you can only farm Chocobo. So ideally you want to go to chapter 7 and onwards so you can farm Sylph as well. This one is from chapter 7. So there you go, guys. Hopefully I had all the information packed. This has been this has taken a while. Alright, so let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you have any questions. Let me know if I missed something. I think for the most part I talked about pretty much everything. So let me know what you think in the comments below, and I shall see you in the next video. Have a good one and take care.